Worldwide parent coach and conscious educator Sue DeCaro is on a mission to revitalize the joy in parenting. Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a podcast designed to help parents all over the world create deeper connections with themselves and their children while overcoming life's daily parenting challenges. Listen in if you want to bring more laughter, love, and enjoyment to your home life.
Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a place for all things parenting. I am your host, Sue DeCaro. Today, I'm super excited to introduce my special guest, Britney Kennedy. Britney is the founder of On Point Nutrition, a virtual nutrition practice based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. On Point's evidence-based one-to-one virtual approach ensures clients receive the highest level of service and sustainable results. Since opening in 2015, Britney and her team of registered dietitians and nutritionists have helped over 1,600 across the U.S. On Point was recently named Philadelphia Magazine's Best of Philly 2018. Awesome. Britney, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Well, I'm so glad you're here to talk a little bit about the holidays, the season that we're into, and how to be more conscious in our approaches to nutrition and, of course, eating. We're faced with so many things during this holiday season. So how do you help parents with that?
Yeah, I mean, we get so many questions around this time of year about events that people are holding in their own homes or events that they're going to with their family. And I think the biggest thing that we always stress to our clients is to really just take a very practical approach to what's coming up the next couple weeks. You know, not stressing out too much about these events that you have to go to, and always remembering in the back of your mind that as long as you make the healthiest choice available to you at that moment, it's a win. You know, it doesn't have to be, quote, perfect this time of year. I don't think it's ever actually capable to be perfect, depending on your definition of perfection. So I think a lot of times what we really stress to clients is to remember that it doesn't have to be perfect this time of year. You know, you don't have to just eat chicken and broccoli at your next holiday event. You should enjoy, the food and the company that you are with, and just focus on being mindful of making the best choices that you can in that exact moment.
What great advice. And I love the practical approach, because what is perfection anyway? So
right.
we're faced with cookies and perhaps fruit too, right? For the holidays.
Yeah.
And we have all sorts of choices wherever
Yes.
we might go, and the parties and things, and even when we host. So I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that really making these choices is perhaps having a cookie, if that's what you desire, and some fruit, and making balanced choices to help the sweet tooth, so to speak, as well as the healthy tooth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our practice itself is we hold an all foods fit mentality. So we'll never tell a client that they can't do something, because the minute you tell an adult or a child potentially that they can't do something, they inevitably want to do it even more. So a lot of times what we stress to clients is that they just need to survey what's at the event that they're at, and then just make the choice that they're more drawn to in that moment. If at that moment you see a really great bowl of fruit and you're like, hey, I would really enjoy that, those berries as a dessert, you should definitely do that. But if you're at an event where there's a cookie or a pie or dessert or something that, is only around that time of year, and, your great grandmother has made it and it's delicious, you should definitely have it, but you have to be mindful of portioning, so just having one cookie or one piece of cake or one piece of pie is much better than obviously overindulging. And it's also much better than limiting yourself and then, being dissatisfied and kind of feeling like you're missing out on the function.
I love all foods fit mentality. I mean, wow, that is such a powerful statement. Such a powerful statement, because you're absolutely right. I know when I limit myself, I want it more. Or when I say, oh, you shouldn't eat that, then I would feel guilty if I did. And there's so much language around the shame of it all, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We really stress that it's all about choices. right? You're the one who's in control of the choices that you're making. No one else around you is really in control of the choices that you make. People can influence other people's choices, but at the end of the day, you're the one actually making the decision. So, you have to sit down and kind of figure out what you actually want in that moment. And it's not realistic to tell people that they can't do something, because that just doesn't make sense. It's not true at all.
Right.
People can do whatever they want. And I think this is really true with children this time of year too, is that you just have to let them know what their choices are and then let them choose. And a lot of times I think that parents assume that their kids will always choose the candy or the sweets, but that's actually not true. I mean, sometimes they might, but if you give your children multiple choices and ask them what they actually want to have, you probably will be surprised at what they decide. It's not always the cookie or the cake. Sometimes it
So,
could be the fruit.
and that's interesting that you brought that up. So it's really about
Mhm.
empowering them in making those choices for themselves.
Exactly.
But I'm going to
Yeah.
take it a step further here. But being careful what kind of language you've created around food, around
Mhm.
cookies, around basically everything that we consume in our life
Yep.
in your child's world. So if we start looking at cookies as bad for us and we shouldn't eat them and we shouldn't this and we shouldn't that, aren't we creating a language around this that brings either shame or hiding or secrecy or
Mhm. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of children learn all of their habits, and especially their eating habits, from their parents or those who are closest around them that they spend the most time with. So, as most parents know, your kids are going to emulate everything they see you doing, right? Whether it's good or bad. It just happens. So, it's really important to watch the types of words that you use around certain when you describe certain types of foods, and the dialogue that you create with your kids around food, because you should never ever tell your child, especially with food, that they can't eat it because it's bad for you. Because bad, the word bad always, like you said, brings this sense of like shame and wrongdoing to something. There's no such thing as a bad food, right? There are foods that are more nutrient dense for you, nutrient dense. There are foods that are going to give you more energy than other foods. And there are foods that are going to make you feel better than other types of foods. But there's no foods that are bad. So if you explain food in that context to kids, they understand, right? So they know, if you explain to them that if you eat this apple before you go for a run and play with your friends, you're going to have more energy and you're going to feel better. You could eat this cookie, but this cookie might not give you all the energy that you need to really have fun playing with your friends, which is very true, right? We're not lying about either of those things. And by explaining it to them in that way, then they will be feel empowered to make a decision, right? And they might look at it and say, well, if I want to have fun with my friends and I want to have a lot of energy, then I need to eat the apple because it has more nutrients in it for me and it's going to make me feel better. And so eventually if you use that dialogue when you're explaining types of foods and how foods fuel our bodies, they're able to make better choices as they grow up.
and I think that's such an important concept to keep in mind for all of us. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to share just a little story about just the opposite with you. But
Yeah.
first, I wanted to just pinpoint that the dialogue around food and the facts and the neutrality that we bring to it, without like tension and tone and negativity, but the positivity around the facts is
Yep.
important. But also, you talked about modeling and emulating as parents. We need to embody as
Mm-hmm.
well what we're sharing with our kids. So if we're saying in one sentence, you
Yes.
should eat the apple, and then, we're really going for the cookie.
Right.
Our kids are very aware of these
They're
practices,
very,
even
and
when
they
they're
get,
not in the room.
yeah, and they get very confused. They get very confused because they say, well, my mom or my dad or, my caretaker is telling me that I should pick this because this is a healthier choice for me. It's going to make me feel better, but they're not eating those things. So, and then they start asking questions like, well, why aren't you eating this? And then you're kind of stuck in a hard place where you
Right.
you have to try to justify your actions. And that's where it can get a little bit sticky.
So for all parents listening, get clear on your food values and
Yeah.
choices, and as well as be thoughtful in the nutrition facts and the information that you're sharing with your kids from an
Hmm.
educational basis. So
Yeah.
I wanted to share a little story with you. I can remember this like it just happened yesterday, and believe me, at my age, it was not yesterday. So when I was young, I was on a mental health day, whatever that is, but my mom was really good about giving us mental health days, and
Yeah.
we were at this bakery in one of the department stores, and there was a muffin, and I
Mm.
remember wanting this muffin and my mom saying, "Oh my gosh, no, don't eat that muffin. That has too many calories."
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and I share this because, Brittany, that was so powerful in my life that every
Hmm.
time I looked at a muffin, all I could think of was, I think she told me it had 1,000 calories, was thinking 1,000 calories at one muffin. I don't want that. But
Hmm.
it tainted me against the muffin world, poor
Right.
muffin world, to never
Muffins are
eating that
great.
kind of food. Right. And so this is how powerful our language is, and how
Hmm.
long statements like this can stay with us is it can be endless. Not
Yeah.
sharing my age, but let's just say it's a long time.
Yeah.
So words are powerful.
Yeah, they're so powerful. And we have clients all the time who ask us about how they can help their kids make healthier food choices. And the only thing that, well, not the only thing, but the first thing that we say to them is that, well, you yourself have to improve your food choices. You have to improve your eating habits for your children to then improve their eating habits. You can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Mhm.
Right,
Right.
you
Right.
can't do both.
Literally.
um,
Mhm.
Literally, yeah. It really stems from the parent, from the adult, and making and having the example and making a good example for your children. It's very hard to get your children to make, quote, better food choices when you yourself are not doing that. They just get confused. They don't understand why you're telling them one thing and then doing something else. It's like, if we were comparing this to anything else in life, it just wouldn't make sense. It would be like someone telling someone to turn right, but then they themselves turn left. It just doesn't make any sense. You say to your child, well, we need to turn right here, but then if you turn left, they get very confused. The same thing with your food. You can't say one thing and then do another.
I think this is parenting as a whole. It's life
Yeah.
as a whole. But, really, before we do anything with our children, we need to embody it ourselves. So if we
Hmm.
expect our children to have a nice, clean, and, cozy room and put their toys away, but ours looks like, a cyclone just went through,
Right.
we're not embodying what we're teaching. And so,
Right.
if I think that we are the greatest models for our children, and it's not like the
Hmm.
olden days, or at least my days, where, as a child, parents were saying, "Do as I say, not as I do." It has
Right.
come full circle, and now it's, the child is doing what they see us do. So it's even more important in every aspect of our life as a parent that we're embodying the things we want our children to do as well.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting how this shifts over time, right? Because I remember even when I was a kid, I think my mother actually used that exact phrase. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do as I say, not as I do. And I remember thinking like, what? Like, well, and as a child, I remember thinking, well, that's not fair. That's not fair. I don't understand why I have to do something, but you don't have to do it. Yeah, and yeah, like you said, it goes across all aspects of parenting.
All aspects. So let's talk a little further about children, and maybe not even just during the holidays. I have a
Sure.
lot of parents that come to me that say, my kid is such a picky eater. And of
Hmm.
course, when you have a picky eater, and then you have the holidays, and then you have the stress of
Sure. Yeah.
family, and the holiday season sadly does bring stress to families.
Always.
What kind of suggestions, ideas, thoughts do you have about how to help these children and families to move through this time of year and the stress in life in general with
Hmm.
picky eaters?
Yeah. So picky eaters are literally the most stressful thing, I think, for most parents, because children's eating habits they go in and out, right? One day they love carrots, the next day they hate them. Then the next day they love strawberries, then the next day they hate them. And it's actually a very normal process for children to go through, for them to try new foods and then not like something. It's like their trial and error process.
Mhm.
there are inevitably some kids who are always going to like more foods than others, just like there are adults that like more foods than others. But the picky eaters are really hard because they're almost like a ticking time bomb. It's like you never know what's going to happen. And so I always stress to people, if you have a child who is a picky eater and you're going to an event or there's some sort of holiday or function where food is going to be provided or you're not in control of the food, it's better to bring something that you know your child will eat. Because what happens is that if you take a picky eater into a situation and then they eat nothing there, it then increases everyone's stress in that environment, right? So the parents get more stressed out. They become less patient with the child. The child knows that their parents are stressed. They get upset. They act out. It's like this ticking time bomb type of thing. And so, and this same concept we use sometimes with adults too. You need to bring a familiar food into their environment and then pair that with a new food. So that way, when they look at their plate, they say, oh, well, I like these things, but this over here is new to me. And they're more likely to try the new thing if they feel comfortable with other things that are already on their plate. So a lot of times it's just kind of thinking ahead and pre-planning and knowing what type of situation you're getting into and bringing some foods or snacks with you for your kids that you know that they will eat. So then they are more likely to feel comfortable and feel full and satisfied and then want to try other foods that are around.
Mm. And that's such a beautiful suggestion because, as you're talking about that ticking time bomb, I can actually see the family leaving the event
Mm-hmm.
and the volcano occurring on the way home where the
Yeah.
poor child hasn't had anything to eat and then
And they're
has a
just,
meltdown.
yeah. The meltdown of all meltdowns.
Right.
It's like, it's like they're done, they're hungry, they're tired, and so you can't force anyone to do anything they don't want to do, right? So you have to kind of nudge them in the right direction or put them in a situation where they feel somewhat comfortable, and so then it's easier to introduce new things. Because you're right, yeah. I mean, I think we've all been to those events. I've seen them where people leave because their children either aren't eating or they're acting up or something is happening, and then it just escalates from there.
For sure, for sure. I actually have a lot of food allergies, so I
Mm-hmm.
always keep food in the car, in
Yeah.
my purse. So if I go to someone's house and I can't eat anything, I
Yeah.
always have something sustainable with me. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's great for picky eaters, for people with food allergies, for people who aren't sure what's going to be served and don't want to make a big, uproar about their
Yeah.
own dietary needs
Yep.
to pack ahead, think ahead, be
Yeah.
prepared.
And depending on where you're going, if it's an environment where it's appropriate or you feel comfortable asking if you can actually bring a dish to add to the meal, that's like the easiest way. Because that way then you're also contributing something to the entire meal that everyone can enjoy, but that way you know that there at least is something there that you can eat or your child can eat. And so that way it, removes some of the stress from the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. You bring exactly what you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then you're
Yeah.
satisfied. So,
Yep.
what are there other things that you're hearing from families as we get into the season of holidays and stress? Is there anything else that you would like to share that would really help our listeners move through sometimes what can be a pretty challenging time of
Mm-hmm.
year?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I think this is true for any time of the year, but in the holiday season, it's even more so true, is that it's important to remember that you and your family need time to yourself and you need time to relax and decompress. A lot of times this time of year, people are pulled this direction and that direction. They're traveling here and going there to kind of see and do everything that they can do in the next couple weeks. And they really miss, setting time aside for themselves. And it's just as important for adults to practice self-care as it is for children. You don't want to be schlepping your kids to everyone's house and parties in here and there because they're going to get tired, they're going to get run down, and then everyone's just not going to be in a great mood. So I would say in general, just take this time and enjoy the holidays and enjoy your family and those around you. But don't forget that your immediate family also deserves to have some time to themselves too. It's totally okay for you to spend a Friday at home with your family and your children and celebrate the holidays with just your immediate family.
That's great advice. So you can say no. You can say
Yeah.
no. You don't have to go everywhere and do everything.
No. One of my dietitians on staff here, one of her favorite statements to kind of tell her clients is that no is a complete sentence.
Oh, I love that. I think I've
No is
heard that before.
Yep, no is a complete sentence. So you can say no. You can not go do something and everything will be totally fine still. It's not as big of a deal as most people think it is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you get into a situation where you have overscheduled yourself and you see that either your children or you are having kind of a meltdown of sorts or really
Mm-hmm.
finding yourself overwhelmed, take a step back and look at what you can eliminate as you move
Yeah,
forward to give you a little more space in your kids and family so that you can
exactly.
actually get back to enjoying and not
Yep.
feeling the stress and pain of it all.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I could have
Awesome.
said that any better.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share with our listeners because I'm sure they're all going to know where they can find out more about you and connect with you.
Yeah. So the best way to connect with us is always just to visit our website and send us a message directly through there. So you can find us directly at www.onpoint-nutrition.com. We also have a very strong social media presence as well. So you can always find us on Facebook or Instagram at On Point Philly. Especially our Instagram, we share a ton of recipes and healthy snacks for, obviously adults and kids. And this time of year, we really try to share a lot of holiday favorites that people can make at home and also take to their favorite events too.
Awesome. So we can get recipes. Yay. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, Britney, thank you so much for your wisdom and all the information that you shared. It's just been fabulous hearing from you and sharing this time with you.
Yes, this was great. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. Remember, every moment is a new moment for conscious connections.
Thanks for listening to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.